Welcome back to the unofficial Squarespace Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Omari Harpain, founder of SQSPthemes.com, and today we're going to be talking with Becca Harpain of Inside the Square about her journey into becoming a Squarespace entrepreneur. Now, I first met Becca in the Squarespace Entrepreneur Facebook group, so if you're not already a member, definitely check it out. She was creating, I think, CSS tutorials and some products around that, and then I saw she really just immersed herself into the 7.1 platform when it was first kind of introduced, and has since created even more resources and training for anyone who's interested in learning the ins and outs of 7.1. So anyway, without any further ado, I'm gonna let Becca introduce herself.
My name's Becca Harpain, and I am the founder, code queen, and self-professed CSS super nerd behind Inside the Square. I love to say that I'm bilingual in the sense that I speak computer, and I love talking to browsers and telling them how to turn what we have on a web page into something even more gorgeous. The code that I work with is just my medium for creating art, and I have had quite an extensive career on the internet through lots of different jobs. As you said, a big background in marketing as well. And recently, I focused a lot on Squarespace and helping people learn how to create interesting codes with my CSS knowledge on the Squarespace platform. And 7.1 was very exciting for me. And I think I definitely call myself an early adopter in most forms of technology. And when I saw 7.1 coming out, it scared the bejesus out of me because it was so different. And I'm not one to back down from a challenge. So I spent a lot of time learning everything I could about it and realized that, okay, this is awesome. I can help other people fall in love with this too. So I shifted gears from just CSS to helping out with 7.1 specifically. And it's been quite a fun ride.
Nice, awesome. So give me a little bit of your backstory, right? So, you are a B school graduate, right? Marie
Definitely.
Forleo's business school.
Shout out to Marie. Love that lady.
And I know the last time we chatted, you mentioned a couple of things that stood out to me. You mentioned like some Google ad stuff. You mentioned mind body. Like, give me a little bit of your backstory and what got you to saying, you know what, let me niche down and focus on Squarespace.
Yeah, well, man, I'm going to try to condense this as much as possible. If my life were a movie, it'd be like 8 hours long. But I had a lot of jobs before I got started on the internet. One of my favorites was I was a tattoo artist for a while, which is kind of the art thing come into play. But I also made sandwiches. I worked at Starbucks. I had lots of odd jobs for a long period of time. And I was working at a deli across the parking lot from a startup in my small town, and they needed someone to answer the phones. And I was tired of smelling like turkey at the end of the day every day. So I went over there. And at this startup, they were starting to advertise their health and wellness software, and they needed someone to help them with online marketing. They handed me 10 keywords and $100 and said, do something on Google with this. And little alarm bells went off in my head. I was like, oh my gosh, career. This is before Pinterest was an idea, before Instagram was a thing. This is when Facebook was still just college kids. Like, this is the very beginning of social media had barely started, and Google Ads was still a pretty prominent part of how you got traffic on the internet, a big part of advertising your business. So I learned a lot about search engine optimization, and I actually worked with Google for a period of about 7 or 8 years, kind of pioneering paid search for this software company as well as other software companies in the health and wellness industry. So it went from that $100, fast forward 8 years, I managed a global marketing campaign, 6-figure year, 3 languages, multiple countries. It was really exciting, but it was also really stressful. And I realized I can't keep up with this fast pace of marketing. I wanted to get back into art, get back into design. So I started branching off into helping clients create websites instead of just advertising their services. Started off with SEO and then kind of went into more, let's just work on the design part. Let's make this look a little bit better. So I started learning about CSS just by necessity, teaching myself things. And I posted a couple videos on YouTube and got so much response from it. People were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Wait, how do I do this thing instead? And I was so excited to help them that I just gave myself this challenge of like, all right, every Tuesday for the next year, you're going to hop on the internet and you're going to share some random piece of CSS that you know and see
Mm-hmm.
who wants it. And that's how Inside the Square started. Turns out a lot of Squarespacers wanted that information.
Yep.
Yep. So it definitely took quite a windy path to get here, but I am officially offboarding all of my clients and focusing solely on sharing code knowledge with the Squarespace community nowadays. And I'm really excited about that.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm excited with you. And kudos to that consistency because every Tuesday I get that email in my inbox. And I think it took like maybe probably like I don't know 10 to 20 of those, and I was like, who is this? Let me like figure out who this person is because they're consistent, and consistency always wins. Um,
Absolutely. It's Marie Forleo right there. She taught me that one.
Smart. So like that transition, right? Because like I told you, like I'm someone who I feel like I'm always going through transition, right? And I know that firsthand that it's not always easy giving up one thing for another thing that might not be as certain, giving up something that's certain and sure for something that's kind of uncertain. Like, how do you process and manage that?
That is definitely difficult. I will say I'm not quite expert level there yet. I still have one AdWords client I haven't let go of because she's a doll. She's taken me through like three different companies she's worked with. She's always brought me with her along her career. Haven't been able to let go of her. But when it comes to those other things, I think I really am, just personality wise, a lot more of a might as well try it kind of risk taker. I'm a very high energy person, if you can't tell. I talk really fast, even though I try to bring it down, but I like to channel that energy into a lot of different directions. So picking one path and focusing on it has been a really big part of Inside the Square, picking just CSS,
Right.
focusing on just that. I've been tempted to make templates. I've been tempted to share JavaScript. And I have to
Mhm.
remind myself, nope, you got to rein it in. They know you for this. And you've got to keep that consistency. So it's really been a bit of a personal challenge for myself to come across as that in the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah, no, that is definitely a challenge. I mean, when I started SQSB Themes, it was a similar thing of like I was doing a lot of different marketing activities and video and photography and trying to do it all as like a one-man band. And it was kind of scary to like just focus on one thing because you feel like you're giving up so much other potential opportunities that could possibly grow and blossom. But I think the record speaks for itself that there's definitely a benefit to that kind of focus. Um, so let's talk about Squarespace, right? So how how did you go about like learning CSS? Like, was it something that you know, you already kind of had the aptitude around, or like what was your learning process around that?
It's a very interesting learning process in the sense that I am entirely self-taught. Everything I've learned from watching other YouTube videos and reading other articles, and 99% of it is trial and error. What
Mm,
happens if I type this? Why is it saying this instead? Let me see what this one does. Like a lot of it is trial and error. But I have always customized things when it comes to the computer. My stepdad had a computer when I was very young, and I remember I would irritate the crap out of him because I'd hop in there and I'd change all the icons on the desktop to something I downloaded, and I'd like change the default font to like Papyrus or something, and he'd be like, "Why? Why are you doing all these things to my computer?" So I think it honestly started there, and it was no different when I started working with websites. When I discovered that Squarespace makes it so easy to put CSS on the site, whole site, individual pages, it's so integrated into their core system to just easily update it. I realized they did that for a reason. They wouldn't make it so easy if they didn't want you to get creative with it,
right. Yep.
right? So that's where a lot of it's come from. But honestly, it's all been it just exploring, saying, man, it would be really cool if this actually had a gradient background. Or wouldn't it be neat if I actually made that image a little smaller, but that one bigger? And then just exploring, how do I go about that?
So I'm gonna take two steps back, right? So let's talk about getting clients for a moment because I feel like that's a common challenge um, in the freelancing world because that's how you make your bread and butter. You have to have some type of system or method for getting clients consistently in order to sustain yourself. So how have you been able to like get clients? Were you just kind of leveraging your SEO work and was it long-term relationships that you just kept going? Like what was your way to get clients?
It was a mix of long-term relationships as well as partnerships. I ended up getting an opportunity for a very creative partnership a while back that I really enjoyed, where in my small town in California, there was a printing company, and they realized their method of reaching clients through doing newspapers and magazines, the print industry wasn't as strong as it used to be, and they needed to evolve. But they had no one on staff to create websites, to do search engine optimization for existing clients. So they looked into bringing that on as a partnership, and actually partnered with them as what I like to call their ghost coder, because I didn't have to meet with the clients. They would get the client, and then I would build the website and then give it to them. And of course, do all the maintenance and ongoing work. But that partnership, leveraging an older business model and using them to find clients for me, was really awesome. I really think that kept me going or kept me afloat for like at least a year. A
Yeah.
lot of the rest of it though was word of mouth and really making sure that I kept those strategic partnerships. I also think it's really important that the, a lot of designers don't necessarily brag about their business in their personal lives. They have their business Facebook page and their personal Facebook page. I
Mhm.
put a link to everything I did on my personal stuff.
Mhm.
99% of my referrals came from my friends
Mhm.
because they would know someone who needed a site or who was starting a cafe and wanted to get their menu online. And
Mhm.
they only knew that I did that because I would post the latest website design that I did on my own personal Facebook page. Bragging about it to my own personal community
Yeah.
utilized them as my own marketing strategy and brought me in a lot of referrals.
That's low key kind of interesting to me because I can see myself in that where I never really like shared that kind of stuff on my personal channels at the time.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm wondering like why that could possibly be a trend. And I think, and this I'm throwing out a theory here as well. Like, I think it's because when you start doing websites, it's typically on the side,
Mhm.
apart from your like day job, and so you
Yep.
don't really want to like mix the two and create any conflict. So yeah, I think that's kind of fascinating that you bring that up.
That's a
Um,
very good point, though. And I think a lot of that has to do with my personality of if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in,
all in,
whatever
right?
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned partnerships too, because I've definitely benefited a lot from partnerships because you can only do but so much by yourself, and I think that's definitely a valuable lesson. Is that if you can find people with complementary skill sets, businesses that complement yours, it just makes things a lot more easier, and you just get the benefit of people who do great things that you can't do, and hopefully you do something great that they can't do, and
Hmm.
you can both leverage each other. Um,
Absolutely.
so what I mean, I was going to ask a pretty dumb question because I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. But what's next with Inside the Square, right? I know you mentioned letting go of some, the previous work that you're doing and really focusing on this customization aspect, which I think is huge. I feel like you can never, when it comes to customizing things, you can never run out of things to customize. It's like a
So true.
perpetual thing. So, but give me like some scoop into the business side, right? Like how are you going to turn this thing into, I mean, I'm sure it already is, but what's the business model? What's the revenue model? How does this kind of play out?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. I actually had a person I was helping some CSS with the other day ask me like, "How much do I need to pay you for this email?" I was like, "You don't have to pay me." She's like, "Well, how do you make money? I don't understand. All your YouTube videos are free. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
But what's next for Inside the Square? I'm actually so incredibly excited. I've been working really hard on launching or relaunching my entire website built on the 7.1 platform, but taking this opportunity to reorganize all of my content. Just starting with a get something out every Tuesday, it ended up being a little hodgepodge, a little not well organized, and I want to become a lot more of a resource than just a one-off. I want to make it easy for people to narrow down what they need, see other options that they might not have considered, and really put all of my content into one place. But the main thing I'm focused on right now as far as a business is definitely sharing my knowledge in a lot more condensed aspect. It took me 5 years to learn all that I know about CSS. And granted, I'm still learning a little bit. JavaScript's my next one, but it took me 5 years to master this. And I've condensed all of that down into one massive online course that I actually launched at the end of last year called Custom Code Academy. It's 6 modules, 24 video lessons, PDFs, and a monthly Q&A with me where I sit there and help people take apart code and come up with creative ideas. I'm really trying to empower people to become the expert that I am, but in a much faster timeline. I don't think anybody else needs to do this for a 5-year process like I have. So it's been really exciting. I'm taking the first set of 30 people through the course right now, and it's been a really amazing experience through all of us. But I think we're really forming some business bonds as well, becoming familiar with each other as designers and looking to lean upon each other in the community, which is something you know well about, communities. And I'm really excited to watch Custom Code Academy grow and hopefully it turn so many more designers out there into experts.
Nice. Well, on that note, what's the URL? CustomCodeAcademy.com?
That's it. CustomCodeAcademy.com.
Yeah, I like. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you finish.
I was just going to add too, like for people that aren't 100% ready to invest in becoming an expert, I am finishing all of the cheat sheets that I have. I have cheat sheets available with just the quick codes. Let's say you know a lot about CSS, but you're not quite sure how to apply it to Squarespace. I have cheat sheets to give you element names and a couple of ideas, what things will respond to and what they don't. So that's a big part of my website redesign, is also launching these cheat sheets. So if you just want to dip your toe in the water, but you're not ready to be an expert, I got you covered.
Nice. This is exciting. And I'm glad that I could kind of be a part of this. I feel like, get this Custom Code Academy like lit.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. I will say the community aspect of it though is really exciting, and one of my goals is to try and be even a quarter as awesome at community management as you are. I love the community that you have on Facebook. It is such a great place to look for ideas and get help with things, but also help other people. And I just really love the collaboration that happens there. You've built a really strong community. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, and kudos to the community because I'm just a member myself. But thank you, and thank you for sharing all that you just shared with us. I'm excited to see what develops and unfolds with Inside the Square and Custom Code Academy.
Thank you. Me too. And if you feel like testing out my site when I'm finished, I'd love to show it to you.
Oh, most definitely. Thanks again, Becca.
If you enjoyed this episode, head on over to sqspthemes.com/podcast, where you can subscribe and get email notifications of future episodes. And you can also check out the show notes to access any links that were mentioned during this episode. I'm still working out a couple of kinks, specifically with the audio. My audio, it's not where I want it to be, but we'll get it right. So if you subscribe, you'll get those future episodes. All right, peace.